Introduction: The Unseen Successor. In a city that never sleeps, where wealth and power dictate status, one boy lived in the shadows, unnoticed, unacknowledged, yet destined for greatness. Ethan Carter was no ordinary teenager. He was brilliant, observant, and kind-hearted, but burdened by a life of poverty and mystery. Raised by his enigmatic grandmother, Margaret Carter, Ethan's childhood was shaped within the walls of a forgotten library, a place where knowledge reigned and wisdom was his greatest inheritance. He did not know of the immense fortune that lay in his bloodline, nor of the parents who had left him behind. All he knew was survival, intellect, and the unshakable will to carve his own path. Fate, however, had other plans. At Blackwood Academy, a school built for the elite, Ethan's presence was an anomaly. A scholarship student among heirs and heiresses, he was constantly reminded that he didn't belong. Brandon Hayes, the arrogant son of a real estate mogul, saw Ethan as nothing more than an obstacle to his own self-proclaimed superiority. Isabella Monroe, a girl who once admired Brandon's charm, scoffed at Ethan's defiance. And yet, through trials of intellect and courage, Ethan's very existence began to challenge the hierarchy of privilege. But the path ahead was not just about proving himself in a world that sought to break him. It was about discovering the secrets of his past, the hidden truths his grandmother guarded so closely. For Ethan Carter was not just a poor boy with a sharp mind. He was an heir, and soon the world would know his name. Chapter 1: The Scholar from Nowhere. The city never slept. Neon lights flickered against the cracked windows of a tiny apartment where books piled higher than the furniture. In the heart of this cluttered yet cozy space, a young boy sat under a dim lamp, his pencil gliding across the pages of an old notebook. His name was Ethan Carter. At 16, he had already become a top scholar, earning a coveted place at Blackwood Academy, a school where only the wealthy and elite could study. But while his classmates arrived in sleek black cars and designer uniforms, Ethan walked through the academy gates with secondhand shoes and a bag that had seen better days. His life had always been a quiet mystery, even to himself. He never knew his parents, only that his grandmother, Margaret Carter, had raised him with a firm but loving hand. She owned a small hidden library in the city's back streets, a place where knowledge thrived and where Ethan had spent countless nights devouring books on everything, from philosophy to finance, from strategy to survival. But Blackwood Academy was no paradise. The price of genius. From the moment Ethan stepped into the prestigious school, he was an outsider. His intelligence made him stand out, and his poverty made him a target. "Hey, scholar boy," sneered Brandon Hayes, the son of a real estate tycoon, as he blocked Ethan's path in the hallway. His arms were crossed, and his usual entourage, Jason Miller and Travis Reed, stood on either side of him. "Did you borrow that uniform from a homeless shelter?" Laughter erupted around them, but Ethan remained calm. He had learned long ago that fighting back with anger only entertained the bullies. Instead, he met Brandon's gaze and smirked. "Strange. I thought Blackwood was a place for intelligence, not for people who rely on their father's money to buy them grades." A hush fell over the crowd. Brandon's face twisted in anger, but before he could respond, the school bell rang, and Ethan walked past him like nothing had happened. He was used to this. He had bigger battles to fight. A contest of wits. Brandon wasn't the type to let things go. At lunch, he approached Ethan's table, slamming a math textbook down. "All right, genius, since you think you're so smart, how about a little contest?" Ethan sighed, setting his fork down. "What kind of contest?" "A math duel," Brandon declared, drawing attention from students nearby. Mr. Callahan's calculus problems. First to solve it correctly wins. The cafeteria filled with murmurs. Mr. Callahan's math problems were infamous for being some of the hardest in the school. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "And what do I win?" "If you win, I'll leave you alone for a week," Brandon smirked. "But when I win, you admit to everyone that you're just a charity case who doesn't belong here." A challenge meant nothing to Ethan. He had spent years solving problems far harder than what this school could throw at him. With a nod, he agreed. A teacher was called to oversee, and a problem was written on the board. The timer started. The cafeteria went silent. Brandon scribbled furiously, but Ethan was calm. He had already seen the solution the moment the equation was written. While Brandon struggled, Ethan wrote his answer with steady precision. "Done," Ethan announced, putting his pencil down. Brandon's eyes widened as the teacher checked the answers. The crowd leaned in as the teacher gave a short nod. Ethan is correct. Silence. Then whispers. Then scattered applause. Brandon clenched his fists. His face turned red as his plan to humiliate Ethan had backfired. More importantly, he had lost in front of the girls he always tried to impress. This isn't over, Brandon hissed before storming out of the cafeteria. His anger burned, and from that day forward, Ethan was no longer just a poor kid in his eyes. He was a rival. The waiter's lesson. After school, Ethan worked part-time as a waiter at Le Chateau, one of the city's most famous restaurants known for its luxurious ambiance and high-profile clientele. The pay was just enough to help his grandmother with the bills, and the job, though exhausting, was something he did without complaint. One evening, as he was wiping down a table, he noticed a familiar face in the corner, Liam Parker, a fellow Blackwood Academy student. Unlike the other wealthy kids, Liam wasn't flashy. He was known for his humility and intelligence, despite coming from an influential family. But tonight, he looked frustrated, scribbling on a napkin with a furrowed brow. Curious, Ethan approached. Need help? Liam looked up, startled. It's just this calculus problem. I can't seem to figure it out. Ethan glanced at the napkin and immediately spotted the mistake. He picked up a pen, corrected a few steps, and slid it back. You forgot to factor the denominator. Liam stared at the solution, realization dawning on his face. Oh, that makes sense. Thanks, man. Ethan gave a small nod. No problem. Liam hesitated before speaking again. Hey, you're Ethan, right? The scholarship kid? Yeah. Liam extended his hand. I'm Liam, and I think I owe you a meal for saving my grade. Ethan chuckled, shaking his hand. Just like that, he had gained another friend. The girl who mocked him. Despite the bullying, Ethan's brilliance never wavered. He topped every exam, stunned teachers with his insights, and solved problems no one else could, and someone was watching. Her name was Isabella Izzy Monroe, the daughter of a famous scientist. She had always admired Brandon, his confidence, his charm. So when Ethan humiliated Brandon, she wasn't impressed. In fact, she was irritated. After class, she found Ethan under a tree reading. She crossed her arms and smirked. You must feel pretty proud of yourself, huh? Ethan looked up, raising an eyebrow. Excuse me? You embarrassed Brandon, she said, flipping her hair. Not that I care, but you do realize he's not going to let this go, right? Ethan sighed, closing his book. If he wants another contest, he's welcome to lose again. Izzy scoffed. You're awfully cocky for someone who probably can't even afford lunch. Ethan met her gaze, unfazed. And you're awfully invested in Brandon's pride for someone who claims not to care.